Alright guys, this was a highly requested comparison, the S21 Ultra versus the POCO F5. So this is why this channel pretty much exists. Like, we're big fans of old flagships, and the POCO F5 is a pretty impressive I guess mid-ranger type of phone with some pretty good specs. So let's go ahead and compare it. The reason why this is relevant is because you can pick up a refurbished S21 Ultra for $394, and you can also pick up a POCO F5 for around $400 as well too. So basically, if you have $400, which phone would you pick up? Let's go ahead and go through the pros and cons of each device. All right, so let's talk about the build quality here. So big difference here. So as we can see, the S21 Ultra is a full glass and metal device. It's an old flagship, so it has that premium feel to it. Got the matte finish on here as well too, and very nice looking device still in 2023. It is IP68 dust and water resistant as well too. Now the POCO is still a pretty nice looking device, but this device is just all plastic and it feels extremely light compared to the S21 Ultra, and yeah, it just feels plasticky and just cheaper, right? Now what's pretty cool about the POCO F5, I think, just for a phone that came out in 2023, it does have a headphone jack up top, so I do have to give it points for that. But other than that, it's IP53 dust and splash proof as well too, and like I said, the S21 Ultra is IP68, so you drop this in the pool, it'll be fine. You drop this in the pool and 9 times out of 10 it will probably break, right? So that is the big hardware difference. Is just it's cheaper and it just feels cheaper. It doesn't have that premium feel to it. But you do have to give the POCO, points for having a headphone jack. Now let's talk about the display here. So the POCO F5 does have a 6.67 inch AMOLED display. It's Dolby Vision HDR10+, 120 Hz max brightness, 1000 nits, 1080p 395 for the PPI. The S21 Ultra does have a 6.8 inch display, so it's slightly a little bit bigger. And then you also have HDR10+, and of course it's dynamic AMOLED, 1500 nits peak brightness, 1440p 515 for the PPI. So the S21 Ultra just has a much better display on paper. But it's not just on paper. The overall phone is just easier to hold. Now, I think the S21 Ultra has probably one of the best displays of, all time in my opinion. I really love the S series design on here because it's not super boxy, and it's just one of Samsung's best displays because it's easy to hold and it's easy for people with smaller hands to handle. Unlike like the S23 Ultra with super boxy and sharp. It's just, this is an extremely easy phone to hold considering the size of it, and I absolutely love the display. They both have the punch hole, and the S21 Ultra has a slight curve to it. Now it pretty much depends on what type of person you are, whether you like curves. I think the curve does give it a more premium feel in my opinion, but people would say otherwise, right? And overall the S21 Ultra is just the better display, hands down. It just looks better, colors look better. So yeah, so it definitely wins in this department, in my opinion. Now the POCO F5 does have a pretty decent display for what it is. There's nothing really bad about it. It has pretty respectable aspect ratio as well too. But definitely when it comes to the overall display, it's just much better. You just get higher resolution, higher PPI on the S21 Ultra, and I think just an easier display to handle as well too. Alright, so let's talk about the specs a little bit more here. We got the Geekbench scores on here. So the cool thing about the POCO F5 is I think it has a pretty good chipset for this type of mid-ranger type of phone. It's got the Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 2 processor, Adreno 725, no SD card support, and then you also have 256 gigs of internal storage and 12 gigs of RAM. On this model, the S21 Ultra does have the Snapdragon AAA processor, Adreno 660, no SD card support is on here as well, and then the base model for the S21 Ultra is 128 gigs and 12 gigs of RAM. And you can see the score difference here, not that big of a difference in the single core, but you do have a bit of a difference, a little bit in the multi-core score as well too. Now these phones really aren't that apart from each other when it comes to speed. They're both really fast phones, so I think that's probably the one impressive thing about this POCO, is that it's pretty fast. It pretty much has flagship level speed on it. So the cool thing about the POCO chip is that it's pretty fast. It pretty much has flagship speed on it. As you can see, S21 Ultra a little bit faster getting into Subway Surf, but both of these phones are blazing fast. So I think that's probably like the main, impressive thing here about the POCO is that it's got a pretty good chipset. So I'm really happy about that. I think they, I've seen in the comments, they definitely should use this chip in a few more other phones. Like, it would have been nice to see this chip in like a Galaxy A54, but I think Samsung knew that it'd kind of be over the top, and it would, people wouldn't buy the more expensive models. Get into PUBG here. So as far as the speed goes on these two phones, these are two blazing fast phones, and I think the POCO is a little bit better optimized as far as PUBG goes. Now, as far as the gaming experience, it's pretty much the same, right? It just depends on, like, one phone is more optimized than the other, but as far as Call of Duty, Fortnite, PUBG, these are all going to do a very good job. Now, as far as gaming performance goes, like I said, the S21 Ultra is going to do a really good job. So far, it has not been updated to support the 90 frames yet. It can do it, it can play it at 90 frames. It just hasn't been optimized for it yet. But the S21 Ultra will do a really good job with pretty much any game that you throw at it. And the POCO F5, it is surprisingly optimized for PUBG. It's running at 90 frames. Super smooth. So like I said, you'll have a pretty good gaming experience with both of these phones for the most part. Both of these phones have stereo speakers, and we are at max volume. Let's start with the S21. So overall, the S21 Ultra does have a much fuller sound. It is definitely louder, just better bass. Overall, just a better speaker setup on this phone. The POCO is decent, but definitely not better than the S21. Both of these phones have different fingerprint sensor implementation. So the S21 Ultra does the in-display one, which is very fast. You can use Face Unlock, but the POCO does the physical fingerprint scanner, which I'm a big fan of. I've been a fan of it since the S10e. Just feels really natural, but both of them work really fast, really well. It just comes down to personal preference. As far as the OS goes, I think, I'm more of a fan of One UI. I think they really polished it. It's really clean, and there's a lot to take advantage of, like Samsung desktop support and good lock and stuff like that. So overall, for the OS, I would definitely give it to Samsung. It's just a much more polished OS. MIUI definitely is pretty fast. I don't have that many issues with it. It's pretty smooth. It's just not a lot of stuff like how Samsung has it with the customization and like good lock and stuff like that. And they do kind of, I'm not a big fan of this app drawer at all, really. I don't know. It's fine. I guess you might like it, or you can just change the launcher. But not a big fan of that. But yeah, so what's also really nice about the S21 Ultra is that this phone will be getting Android 14 and I believe Android 15 as well too, and then it'll get security patches, so that is also a really awesome thing as well. So yeah, so that's definitely something to take into consideration. Cameras, it's pretty much a blowout here in terms of cameras. I thought the POCO did pretty nice in the stills, so I'll show you guys the side-by-side stills. But the S21 Ultra has a 108 megapixel standard lens, 10 megapixel periscope telephoto, it does 10x optical zoom, then a 10 megapixel telephoto lens that does 3x optical zoom, 12 megapixel ultra wide, shoots in 8K 24, 40 megapixel selfie, shoots in 4K 60, so extremely good camera specs. The POCO, this is pretty much where they kind of cut costs. So basically 64 megapixel standard, 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro, so there's no dedicated telephoto lens on here. All the zoom is digital, and then it shoots in 4K 30, which it doesn't shoot, it can at least shoot in 4K 60. And then you have a 16 megapixel selfie cam that only shoots in 1080p 60. So you can see the big spec difference. So if you're somebody that takes a lot of photos and videos, definitely 100% going with the S21 Ultra. But let me know what you guys think about these stills. But as far as like zoom quality and just the overall camera, I thought the S21 Ultra was obviously better. What do you guys think? All right, and lastly, let's discuss battery life on these two phones. So the POCO has a pretty nice battery setup. It's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 67 watt wired charging. This thing charges crazy fast, and it also has pretty good battery life. So that's one thing that I really like about this phone, is it's super fast charging, charges very fast. The S21 Ultra has also a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, but it only charges at 25 watts, so you definitely will feel that difference between the charging speeds. But the POCO lacks, obviously wireless charging since it's not a flagship. So the S21 Ultra does have wireless charging and reverse wireless charging actually. So I'm pretty impressed with the POCO F5 for what it is as a mid-ranger. I think Xiaomi does a pretty good job in this area. I think Xiaomi and Google, I think they do the best job with mid-rangers, but I wouldn't buy this over an old flagship, unless something really stands out to you, like maybe the headphone jack, or I don't know, like the chip or something like that. But it's really not that. This phone doesn't really do anything better than the S21 Ultra. So what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.